Okay, well, first, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me on this project. And your name is Talia? Okay. All right. So the first question I have is about being Muslim. Were you born Muslim, or was it like you chose to convert to it, or what?
So I was not born Muslim. I reverted to Islam in 2004. So my dad's Catholic, my mom's Jewish. My mom's side of the family is pretty much like non-practicing. Like my grandmother is more religious, and my parents were divorced when I was like 11 months old anyways. So I didn't really grow up like practicing so much of any like faith spiritually, but like, you know, we celebrated Hanukkah, we celebrated Christmas, like Halloween, Easter, like everything. But in Judaism they say like if your mom's a Jew then you're always a Jew. So like I'm still Jewish, you know what I mean? But I did, like, when I first started to read and write English, I was reading and writing Hebrew. Like my grandmother was pretty religious, so I went to like an Orthodox Hebrew school. And I really liked it and everything, and then I started into public school, and then, like I said, I wasn't really growing up with, like, any faith, per se. And then when I was, like, 18, a friend of mine, I called a friend of mine, and his brother answered the phone, and his brother is, like, really Christian, like, really into Christianity. And so he said to me, like, what do you think of Jesus? And then I was just kind of like, oh, and I was like, well, I mean, I think that Jesus exists, like, because I had been to, like, a youth group with my friend in high school, like, a couple of times. He's like, I think Jesus exists. And he's like, yeah, okay, well, why don't we have a Bible study? And then I was like, okay. And so then I went to, like, the Church of Christ with him, and we sat down with another woman there, and we had, like, a really, like, an hours-long Bible study kind of, you know, meeting. And so at the end of it, he kind of posed the question, like, so what happens, you know, if you die tomorrow or if you die next week? And I was like it's really important for you to take a step to be pleasing to God. And so I decided to get baptized. And so that was when I was 18. And so then I got baptized, was that when I was 18 or 19, whatever. And then I got baptized like the next day, like literally, like full in the water, you know, baptism. Like, you know, yeah, at the church they had like one of those bath things in the front of the church. And so I remember that I did that, and then I went home and like I think I cried for like 2 weeks straight. Like I was just so amazed because I really had like a troubled teen years. Like really, I got into a lot of trouble. And so it was just like really emotional for me, like the idea of being forgiven for my sins and, you know, just being able to like communicate with God and doing like something that's pleasing to God. And I just felt so much of it. And I really loved my Christian faith, and I really loved the people that I went to church with. And I was really into it. And then when I started, I think, I'm not sure what point in time it was exactly, but in my college studies, September 11th happened. I mean, the first one, like the real, like 2001. It was in 2001. And so then one of my I didn't have any roommates who lived at home. One of my classmates, he invited the whole class to the mosque, the one here in Pittsburgh, the Islamic Center of Pittsburgh. And I didn't know anything about Muslims at that point, except I was really into my faith. Like really into my faith, to the point that I was like, you know, stopping being friends with some people, telling them I shouldn't be yoked with unbelievers, you know, like, and I, you know, like I stopped swearing, and then I like got rid of music, and like, you know, I mean, I was like really, I mean, but they were really nice people and everything. It's just that they wanted to emulate like the time of Jesus Christ, because it was like a Church of Christ. So anyways, and so I didn't really know much about Muslims except for the book, like, and the movie Not Without My Daughter, which is like really not a positive view about Muslims whatsoever.
And your friend that invited you, he was Muslim?
My friend that invited the whole class, yeah, he was Muslim. He wasn't even like very religious, but I mean, he's a Muslim, you know, he was from Lebanon. And so, yeah, we went, and then I got a copy of the Quran, and then I went home, and I looked at what it said about Jesus and about women, because I figured, like, they say really bad things, I'm sure, you know. And then I read it, and then I got really freaked out, because I was, like, you know, reading the Bible every day, especially as a revert into, as a convert into Christianity. I was reading it every day, and then I read the Quran about Jesus and about women, and it felt so much like the Word of God to me, and I got freaked out, like, seriously, and I just kind of took a step back, and I started studying Islam. And then after 3 years, I became Muslim.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's the longest answer, probably, because it's a crazy story, you know.
Well,
it's a long story, so yeah.
So now I don't know a lot about Islam. Is it Islam is the faith, and you are Muslim?
Yeah.
Or, okay. All right. So, does Islam have a Sabbath, so to speak, or a holy day? And if so, what is it, or can you tell me about it?
I mean, it's not like we have a day that we feel like, oh, you have to rest on that day kind of a thing.
Okay.
But Friday is like the day that we have our holy, that we have our congregation. Like that's the day that we congregate.
Okay.
And so there's something called like Friday prayers, or it's like Jummah. And so Jummah just means like a group. It's like when you pray in a group.
Okay.
And so it's like it's on Fridays. And so like any Friday, you know, it depends on the time, depending on where you're at. But usually, like at our mosque that I go to, it's like 1 o'clock every Friday, no matter what. That's the time of the prayer. So you'll see people leaving. A lot of Muslim people, they'll have like on their lunch break, they can go at that time, or they have that specific hour off just to be able to go and listen to the lecture and then have the prayer.
Okay.
And it's not mandatory for women, but it's mandatory for men.
So would that be like in Christianity, something similar to Sunday when you go to church, or Jewish when you go to temple, or is
similar.
it? Okay.
Yeah,
so that would be
similar.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So can you tell me some of the specific like customs of Islam, like as far as marriage, prayer, maybe leadership in the church, like women, men?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that there's so many different areas that you could ask about, I guess, but like, I mean, the way that we usually give an introduction to anybody that doesn't know about Islam would be, you know, explaining that there are 5 pillars of Islam. And of course, I'm like about to forget them just because you're interviewing me. But there are 5 pillars of Islam, and one of the primary ones is the 5 prayers. So Muslims pray 5 times a day. Okay. So that's something that's like very much a part of like every Muslim's daily life. Like we pray every single day.
And are these like set prayers, or is it just like?
So they're set at a specific time, and like, you know, depending on the sun. Like the Muslim people follow the lunar calendar. Okay. So like any of our holidays, like the month of Ramadan, which is the holy month of fasting, that is based upon the moon. Just like the Jewish faith is also based upon the lunar calendar, and just like the Chinese cultures and a lot of Asian cultures have, like, right now they're going to be upcoming now is like the Lunar New Year, like the Chinese New Year. So like we also follow the lunar calendar. But anyway, so the depending on the sun or the part of the day, that's when we do our prayer. So we have the morning prayer, the noon prayer, the afternoon prayer, the sunset prayer, and then the evening prayer. Okay. And so for those prayers, there's like a ritual ablution that you do. It's like a cleansing, so it's like a symbolic cleansing, and then it's actually like a physical cleansing too, because you're actually using water. And you do that before the prayers. And other points relating to marriage. I mean, marriage is just like, you know, like men and women get married, and contradictory to what like people think. You know, it really is a choice. You know, on behalf of both men and women, and I mean, especially on behalf of the woman, like, you know, she really has to accept it, and if there's any culture that's doing any other practices, that's not according to Islam, because the woman has to fully, you know, like, agree and consent to a marriage. Yeah. I don't know what. There's so many things I could say about, like.
Well, how about the roles of men and women in Islam? Are they the same? Are they like? I know there's the imam, which is similar to what, like the leader,
like a rabbi or a pastor.
So can that be a woman? Can it only be a man?
So like usually the one that leads the prayer is a man. if there are men and women, then usually like a man would be leading. If there's just women, then a woman would lead, because I mean then there's no man there to lead anyways. Usually like in the mosque, even when you go there, you'll see that the men sit in front and the women sit in back, and that's really sincerely, strictly because of the nature of the way that we pray, like the way that we're bending down in our prayer. It just doesn't make sense to have like women
bending down
in front of men, because men are much more like distracted by those kinds of things, and women are really fascinated by looking at that anyways, like not like that.
Yeah. Right.
So it just like practically doesn't make sense for like women to be in front of the mosque. But when we have like, you know, gatherings or events or anything like, you know, that kind of stuff, then it's very common like the men and women could be sitting side by side. So it's not like just the men have to be in front or something like that. With regard to just like roles in general, I always like to describe it like women and men are like apples and oranges.
Yeah.
So they're both fruit. They both have their benefits. Not like one is stronger or better or something like that than the other one. You know, each of them have their own strengths. And that's pretty much how it is in Islam.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody has like something that they're a master of, I guess.
So, I know you mentioned a little bit like the imam. So how does one become a leader in the Islamic faith?
So if you were going to be like a spiritual leader, like a sheikh, then you do need to, I mean, there's specific criteria, which it would be better to actually ask a sheikh what that specific criteria is.
Okay.
But like, you know, there's a certain level of education that you had to have had, like the mosque at our imam, and the imam at our mosque, he studied with Al-Azhar, which is like a very world-renowned Islamic school in Egypt. And that's like one of the most renowned schools. You know, he studied there. He learned like sound creed and sound history, and he's like fully fluent in Arabic. He's memorized the entire Quran. You know, those
so
are
they would
certain
go
things that
to
required.
school, like I'm Catholic,
kind of like
so
a
like
scholar.
Yeah, so like in the Catholic Church they go to like seminary. Would it be something like that, or no?
It is kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and nowadays, like, I guess depending on the mosque and depending on the type of person, you can call imam. It's just like in the Arabic word, it just means like in front. Like right now, you're imam me. Like, you know, you're just in front of me.
Oh, okay.
So like,
I thought that was their title.
It is their title.
Okay.
So like, basically anybody that's leading the prayer can be called an imam. You know, but then there's the role of like the imam, which is like as a religious director. So it depends on what they're actually doing as to whether or not they can be. Usually it's best for whoever has the most of the Quran memorized. It doesn't matter what status they are in life, what they do. Whoever has the most of like, you know, the Quran memorized, then they would be the person that would stand in front of the prayer to lead it. You know? So it doesn't matter if you have like a doctor and a custodian and like an engineer and a mathematician and a professor, like whatever, it doesn't matter. What matters is like, you know, maybe one of them just happens to be from the old country and he knows the most Arabic, he's going to be the one in front leading the prayer. You know?
Okay, I see. So it's
when it comes to giving people like marriage, permission for marriage and doing, you know, like marriage advice and all of that kind of stuff. It's okay. Yeah.
Okay, so how like we talked a little bit that you chose Muslim, so children, are they born? Once children are born, are they automatically Muslim because you're Muslim? Do they have to choose? Are they baptized? You know, I'm trying to, you know.
Yeah. So like, so like the rules relating to like marriage, so like because usually like the man is considered like more influential, so usually if a child, so it doesn't happen like that. Like, if you don't actually see it played out like that way. Like, I know somebody who's Muslim and his wife is Christian, and then the children grew up, because, like, the mom is with them all the time, they kind of grew up, like, in the Christian belief process, and so he didn't really, like, mind that, and he was kind of, like, you know, let it happen that way.
Okay.
And that can happen. But usually a Muslim woman is not supposed to marry other than a Muslim man. But a Muslim man can marry a Christian woman or any other faith.
Someone other than
woman,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, let's say, for example, like I know a really amazing woman who she's Muslim, but her husband is not Muslim. And they were married before she became Muslim. And there's nothing saying that she can't be with him. And he's a really nice guy. And, you know, he accepts her and lets her practice her faith. So, like, there are certain very specific, like circumstances that can be evaluated. It's not just like anything general blanketed.
Okay.
In general, Islam is like a very practical religion.
Okay.
So if there's something that you have questions about or something that doesn't seem practical, then there's reason to question it.
Okay.
And so then that's when you can look for those exceptions or look for, like how do you live your life, basically.
Okay.
So the kids, I mean, we believe that every single person on earth is born as a Muslim. I mean, like, that's why even I say reverted. Like, we believe that all of us are born, as, like, servants of God. Like, and God created us for the purpose of, like, worshiping Him. And worship can be enacted in any form. Like, if you're, if you're a mom and you, like, really try your best to be a good mother for the sake of God, then that's a form of worship. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're a teacher, or if you are a car mechanic. Like, whatever you do in your life, if you're doing it for the sake of, like, being a good person and, like, striving for the better of humanity, then that can be a form of worship.
Okay.
So we believe that anybody that's born into this world is born basically, like, to worship God. So it's, society and different thought processes and different cultures and different all of those kinds of factors that, make people, like, not be Muslim,
Okay.
the organized religion of Islam.
Islam.
Yeah.
Okay, because I wondered, like, in, again, I draw a reference to Catholic Church, like a child is baptized, and then they have to have communion, and then confirmation, and then officially they're Catholic, if you want to baptized. So is there things like that in the Islamic faith? Like, do they have to have certain steps or no?
No, I mean, I think that it's encouraged that, like, usually around the teenage years, like, all youth kind of question things. And it's totally encouraged for the youth to question things. And, to ask questions and to seek knowledge and to find out more and to know about other religions. And then ultimately, I know a lot of, like, college-age youth right now, like, maybe, like, 22, 23, whatever, or even 18, 19, they come to, like, some of the revert groups that we have and stuff, because they say, I kind of, like, feel like right now I just came back to my faith, because I was kind of just following what my parents were following, and I didn't really know, and then, like, I got to college, and I was kind of confused, and now I feel like, no, this is my faith, so they kind of, like, reclaim it, but there's nothing, like, in the doctrine, or there's no, like, rites of passage or anything like that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. And I know that we work in a different group together with Penn. So, what is the Islamic view on social issues or issues of social justice and concerns? I mean, and how is it aligned with your faith?
So, I mean, in general, being a Muslim is just like being, like, a person who believes in human rights, who believes in civil rights. I mean, I work for CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and our primary purpose is to ensure that, like, the civil rights are maintained for all human beings, and that's like our mission, that's our purpose, aside from, like, spreading an awareness and understanding of Islam. So even issues like, for example, making sure that there's clean water in the rivers, or, like, with relation to fracking and it harming the environment. All of these things relating to the environment are things that are important to Muslims, because there's actually a whole series that the Imam does and that you can find in Islam related to rights. You could look at Islam just as, like, the rights of women, the rights of God on you, the rights of your neighbors, the rights of your family, the rights of your children, the rights of your parents, the rights of nature. Like, there are so many rights that everything in this world has upon us, and so we believe in giving all of those things due rights.
Okay.
Yeah.
And respecting them.
Oh yeah, definitely, and pushing for them. It's really important. Like, there are people that we believe, like, for example, I don't remember what. I don't want to give you the wrong information, but, like, there was somebody who I think that they were, like, in a very bad way. They were, like, doing so many things, like, that were not considered, like, of, like, a good way. I guess you could say. I don't know what else, because I don't remember what it was that person was doing. But then on their path, they would go past, like, a dog who seemed to be like hungry and kind of like not well, and so then they went out of their way to get water in their shoe and feed the dog, and that person was said to have entrance into paradise, you know, just for that. So even if you're doing so many, you know, things that are not like in the best way, then like God will look at your deeds to see like what kind of good things did you do for humanity, you know, and those things could save you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, is there, I mean, these are the basic questions I had written down, but is there anything else or anything specific that you want to say about Islam or about
What's the class that you're taking?
It's cultural diversity, and it said to speak with someone from a different religion than your own.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything. I mean, I think that was like, those were a lot of really good questions. Is there anything else that you want to just like ask me that you're interested in knowing about?
Well, let me ask you one thing. One of the things we've been talking a lot about in cultural diversity class and reading about is stereotypes. And right now, with everything in the world recently, Islam and Muslims have a lot of stereotypes, you know, or people have about them. Is there anything about that you would want to say, you know, I mean, that's not true, or that is based on lies, or that is, this part is true, but people have taken it this way, you know what I mean?
I think that it's just like, when it comes to stereotypes, I feel like I don't like stereotypes.
Well, no one does.
But I would say that like one really easy way to battle stereotypes is just to remember to look at people as individuals, because we're all individuals, and each Muslim person is an individual too. So like, even I think that people kind of like within the past like week or something maybe decided to stop like expecting condemnation of every single terrorist act that happens, because they realized that actually like Muslims are like a primary victim of all of these terrorist attacks. Especially if you look like overseas, the primary people that are being, you know, killed and injured and harmed in like so many ways are Muslims. So, you know, the fact that the rest of the world is expecting all Muslims to condemn the acts of like a very like minute percentage of the whole Muslim population, and that minute percentage, by the way, we don't even like consider them Muslim, because the things that they're claiming are actually things that are not Islamic by any means. Yeah, that's something that it feels like within the past week people just started noticing, like, hey, these people are individuals, you know. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a stereotype that is frustrating, and it hurts, you know, like it feels sad. So I don't really know what to say other than that. Like, yeah, I mean, that's just one stereotype. Like, a lot of the Muslims now feel like, you know, even when something happens, it's like, no, we don't want to make a statement, we don't want to condemn things, and we don't even want to use the term like Islamophobic, because then it's like as if Islam itself is like some kind of disease or some kind of like, you know, anomaly or something like weird about it. And it's like, I feel like I would prefer to use like anti-Islamic rhetoric. Like, I feel like there's a lot of anti-Islamic talk and a lot of anti-Islamic media coverage. So yeah. I don't feel safe. I don't know. Really, I don't.
You don't feel safe?
No, yeah. I mean, I feel like, you know, I just feel like people, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that's happening right now that really, you know, it doesn't make you feel safe.